it's Risa and Kevin from Hudson Valley Vintage. Welcome, welcome. So tonight was actually one of the suggestions that we got was to compare wax and glaze. So that's what we're going to do tonight. That's all we're going to do tonight. You're going to be sick of wax and glaze by the time
But you'll know
we're done.
almost everything there is.
Yeah, you're going to know a lot. You're going to know a lot. People have a lot of questions about this subject, and we're going to answer them. We're going to be using two different types of products, Fusion Mineral Paint and Paint Couture. We carry both.
So
This is a great tip for practicing these things. Go get some scrap wood or some molding and cut it up and practice. Okay. So I painted some in some different colors because we're going to be doing different types of glazes and waxes. And hopefully we'll get to all of these tonight. Let's get started. First of all, I have glazes from Paint Couture. We've got glazes from Fusion. We've got wax from Fusion and a whole bunch of different things. So before we actually start applying some, let's talk about the differences. The wax is wax. I mean, I know that sounds like silly to say wax is wax, but it is wax. There's certain types of paint, basically chalk-based paints, milk-based paints. Most furniture paints do not have a built-in top coat. So you're going to want to seal them with something, and wax is one of those options. As a matter of fact, for a long time, wax was the only thing that people used to seal furniture paint. Today, I use wax more as to enhance my pieces or for an effect. And I have to be honest, I don't use it a lot, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. Glazes are basically just for an effect, okay? So if you want to age something, make it have a different look to it, those are the things that you would use glazes for, and we're going to show you that as well.
And the world of glazes is expanding too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they're different. So just for an example, Paint Couture's glaze has a built-in top coat. Okay. Fusion's doesn't, but Fusion's has a longer open time, which means you can mess with it longer. The wax gives you a smoother feel because you're going to be buffing it. Glaze is easier to work with in the sense that you don't have to do all that buffing. Okay. Wax, when you're working with it and you buff it, it's dry. Glaze could take 24 to 48 hours to dry. Okay, so I'm just giving you some of the pros and cons of each. Wax is always the last thing you put on your project. Okay, nothing goes over wax except more wax. Okay, the reason being is because paint or whatever else will not adhere well to wax. Let's say you paint a piece and you wax it, and later on you want to repaint it. What you have to do is take a mineral spirit, which is what this is, and remove the wax with the mineral spirit. Basically, you could put this into a cotton cloth and just remove it. It comes off pretty easily with this. Without this, no. I wouldn't even say sanding it.
No, it won't. Sanding it will create friction, which will melt the wax and push it even further down into all of the areas. So no, it doesn't help you at all. You want to clean it off. You want to dissolve. You have to dissolve it and wipe it off. Is what you're doing.
And if you have a piece that maybe you didn't paint and you suspect that it was waxed, you could do a couple things. You can rub your fingernail on it and see if there's anything underneath, or if there's like a line in there.
I usually take my fingernail and rub it backward against it, and if you see a line,
not sure, then just use a little bit of mineral spirits. It's going to save you a lot of aggravation. Glaze, you can paint over glaze. However, you want to wait till it is good and dry, and so I would not wait even a couple days. I would wait longer to paint over the glaze.
2 weeks.
But you can.
Yeah.
So hopefully that gets us started. Okay. So, we are working with Fusion Mineral painted pieces and Paint Couture painted pieces. Now, both of these paint lines have a built-in top coat. So what that means is we can wax and glaze right over them. Okay, so we're going to start with some wax.
That's a nice smelling wax, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a lavender. This is a lavender wax, so it smells like lavender. Normally the wax doesn't smell like anything because it's all natural. So there's a couple of different ways that you can apply wax. You can, if you're working with a small piece like this, you can apply it with a lint-free cloth. I recommend with wax to use shop towels. The reason being, I wouldn't want you to clean like a rag with wax on it in your washing machine, right, honey?
No.
Probably not the best idea.
No, because you got the heat and then it gets around there and then you throw good clothes in afterwards, and if there's a little wax residue in there, you don't want wax getting in your clothes.
Right. So,
I can smell the lavender from here.
I know, it's nice. So what I often like to do is fold up my shop towel. And this is if I'm doing it on a very small piece. I put a little bit of wax on here, wipe it on, or you can use a wax brush. So wax brushes are natural bristles. We don't generally, we don't ever use natural bristles for paint, but we can use them for wax. This is a wax brush that we sell here, and you can get the link in the comments. This is a Stahlmeister wax brush, natural bristles. We're working with soft wax. So it's got the consistency of like soft butter, very, very soft butter. And we can use a nice soft wax brush because we're using soft wax. If we were using a hard wax, and there are some hard waxes out there, we'd want to use more of like a dense, sometimes even pointy wax brush, but we can use this one. So I'm going to put a little wax on here, and I'm just going to dip it in, and I'll show you what the wax is again that I'm using. This is clear furniture wax, and it comes in 200 grams or 50 grams if you just don't want very much. And what I'm going to do, I just have a little bit on here, and I'm just going to brush this on to my surface. And I'm using very, very little. With wax, less is more, and you're going to see why in a minute. Okay. Oops. Okay. So now I'm going to take my shop towel, and these are blue shop towels. You can get them in any hardware store. This is what I like to use to buff. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my cloth and just wipe back the excess. Now there's not going to be a lot of excess on here because I used very little wax, and that's intentional. So now I'm going to just take this and start buffing. So you're probably thinking like, wow, she's really going to town on this. Like she is buffing that a lot. Well, that's what you have to do. And what I usually tell people in my class when I teach this, when you feel like you're done, buff again. So when you feel like you're done, go over it once more. So imagine, you know, this is one of the things, think about if you have a big piece and you're waxing the whole piece, it can be a lot of work, but the reward is that you get a lovely result. Now look at these two, This color is Brook from, it's called Brook, it's from Fusion. So this one has wax and you can see this nice, lovely sheen. It's also smooth, it's much smoother. And the one on the other side has just paint on it. So that one has the wax. And the other one does not. So I'm going to use some tinted wax. So wax comes clear. This is the clear wax. And it also comes tinted. So here is aging wax and espresso wax. They're both brown. The aging is a little bit darker than the, you want to show them that? Than the espresso. So I'm going to put a little aging wax on here. And I'm going to go right over the clear wax. But I want to mention one more thing before I jump ahead. With the wax, there are certain situations that you do not want to wax, okay? First of all, you don't want to wax a piece of furniture that's going outside. The reason being is, first of all, it's not, I mean, it's more durable than, it is a top coat. So it's going to be more durable than it would have been otherwise. However, it's not durable enough for outside. And then when you have hot days, it's wax, so it can melt. You also don't want to wax something that's going to go into like a sunroom, again, for the same reason that it could melt. And I wouldn't wax a piece that is going to be cleaned a lot. So I wouldn't wax like a kitchen tabletop. I wouldn't wax kitchen cabinets, things like that. Those are the kinds of things that you want to put a poly on. And we do have, from a couple of different paint lines, we have General Finishes, Paint Couture, we have top coats.
Depending upon what kind of top coat you want.
Right, but wax is not appropriate.
Yeah,
for
you don't want it to get wet.
Wax is really nice for occasional pieces, like shelving, side tables, footstools, benches, desks, things like that. Even dressers, but not for super high traffic.
Or even if you wanted to use like the aging wax on the legs of a table to kind of give it the color, because it doesn't, it's not a wearing surface, then it works fine.
So what I'm going to do now is take this, I'm going to use the same brush, and I'm going to take some of this aging wax. I'm going to use this because I don't want to mess up my brush right now. And I'm going to put some on my cloth. And again, not too much. And I'm just going to start wiping it on my board. And actually, using a brush for a piece like this would be better because it would get it into these nooks and crannies a little bit better. Because when you're using a wax like this, you want to get it into all the details. Okay, so now I'm going to go to a clean part of my cloth. There's not much left. And I'm going to wipe back the excess. So it's the same process as the clear wax. And then I'm going to go to another clean part of the cloth, if there is any. If not, just get a clean one. And I'm going to start buffing. So here's my wax piece, and you may say initially, no big difference, but look at it next to that. So what it's done instantly is antique my piece. So there is a big difference. Now, if I wanted it even more antiqued, what I could have done is put more wax on, put it away maybe for 20 minutes, and then go back to wipe back the excess and buff it. So the more that you put on, the longer you leave it, the more effect you're gonna have.
But that's a big change.
Yep. So now what I'm gonna do is take this other one, and I'm gonna take Fusion's Antiquing Glaze. And this is Brook, by the way, this color. Now the glaze is water-based, so with the glaze, I like to use old t-shirts, old rags, because I can throw them in the wash. So this is what the Antiquing Glaze looks like. And I'm gonna take a brush. I'm just using a natural, a synthetic brush, and I'm gonna wipe it on. Now, using a glaze over chalk paint, some chalk paints will tell you to seal it first, like with a polyurethane. But, I mean, that's up to you if you want to do that. What I'm going to do with this is put it aside for a minute before I wipe it back. So I'm just going to put it over here. And now I'm going to take this darker piece, which I painted in ash. This is also from Fusion Mineral Paint. And I'm going to use their liming wax, which is a white wax. You've probably heard of white wax. It's really the same thing. And what this is going to do is basically age my piece, but in a different way. It's going to make it look sort of like beachy, like it was outside.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of
Yeah,
look.
give it a sun-bleached look.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so again, I'm going to use the cloth, but I might have a better better result with a brush. As a matter of fact, I'm going to switch over and use this brush because I really want you to see. This is actually my favorite technique with the wax. I like to take a dark color and use the liming wax or the white wax. And you can see instantly how much easier I get into the details with
a brush.
With the wax brush. Now, how would you clean this brush? Because it's different than...
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, I would just wipe it off, you know. If you know,
You
I like
to clean it every time you use it.
Yeah, but you know what? I would take the excess off so that it doesn't sit there and dry and harden in the brush. You want to have your brush, and a wax brush will get hard over time, and that's okay. Hit it with a blow dryer, and you'll soften it right up.
So I'm gonna take this and let it sit because, like I said, this is my favorite technique. So I'm gonna put this aside. I want that to kind of
gel,
marinate a little bit. Okay. And I'm gonna do one more thing with the Fusion products, and that is I'm going to use clear glaze. So Fusion has a clear glaze. Paint Couture also has a clear glaze. And what you can do with the clear glaze is mix up your own custom glaze. So what I'm going to do... Ooh, I got that one open.
Wow. It's because it was a new one.
And like I said, these are water-based. So I'm going to just take a little bit of this. I don't need very much. Put a little bit in a cup. And I'm going to mix in a little bit of paint. And I'm going to take Sterling, Fusion Mineral Paint Sterling, which is a very, very soft gray. And I'm going to mix in a little bit into the, directly into the clear glaze. So I'm putting about 1/3 paint into the clear glaze. But now I have a nice, very light, soft gray glaze. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm going to take one of these. This is Seaside from Fusion. And I'm going to dip my brush in here with the glaze that I just mixed. And I'm going to put it on. And again, you can see using a brush, you get much better coverage, get it into the details than using a cloth. Let me put this away because I want it to sit for a minute. Okay, so I'm using this antiquing wax or the aging wax on a light color. If I use this over like a dark color, like an ash or a dark, you know, very dark color.
Glaze, you said wax, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is glaze. Or wax, it wouldn't matter. You're not going to get as big of a result. So that's why I say that. So since this is glaze, I'm going to take an old t-shirt. You could see we've used these already. All right, so now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to wipe back the excess. And this is glaze. This is not wax.
So you don't buff this, you just wipe it back.
Yep, you just wipe it back. Now, when you have a piece that has a lot of detail like this, I like to leave some of it in the details. The glaze takes a long time to dry. So the good part of that is that you can mess with this for a while. If you find that you have too much glaze and you can't get enough off, what you can do is take a spray bottle, spray your cloth, you can even spray your surface and then wipe it back. It is water-based, so there's some time to mess with it.
That's
okay. The glaze, and that's the wax. I have to be honest, I don't love this color on here. I like the wax color better. It's also still wet, so that's part of it too. Mm-hmm. Okay. But if I found after it dried that I really didn't like it, I could paint over it. So now let's go back to this is wax. And we did this over ash. This is the liming wax.
Is the glaze more effective at getting into crevices in heavily detailed pieces other than the wax? I would say not necessarily. If you're putting wax in with a wax brush, you can then get it in.
Yeah.
The question would then be, if you shove a lot of wax into a bunch of crevices with the wax brush, you're not going to be able to get it out that easily. You can't get, it takes just that much more.
You're not going to be able to buff it.
Yeah, you won't buff it. It's just going to dry that way. So if you wanted to get it in, you could brush it in, brush the glaze in, and then you could actually use a brush and you could wipe it back from the crevices too. Yeah. And I think it would come out better. So 6 of one, half a dozen of another. It depends on your look that you want.
Yeah. So this is wax. This is the liming wax. We did this over ash, which is a very dark gray. And I let it sit for a while because I really love this stuff. And I'm going to start wiping it back. This is one of my favorite looks. So this is Fusion Mineral Paints Ash, and we use the liming wax. And I love...
All right, well, let me do it this way. There we go. Now I can get it to... So there you can see some of the...
Now here's another thing about wax and glaze. You don't have to use it on your whole piece. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. Don't be afraid to play with it. So now we're back to glaze. Okay, so now we're back to glaze. And I'm going to use a cloth because I can throw these. This is water-based, so I can just throw these in the washing machine. And I'm going to start wiping back. So this is Seaside from Fusion. We used the clear glaze and we mixed in a little bit of sterling. So let me show you what this looked like before. So now I'm going to use some different glaze. I'm going to use some Paint Couture glaze. So this one is champagne glaze. And it's basically like a champagne color.
Mm-hmm.
So this I'm going to put on. I'm just going to put this aside for a minute. And I'm going to go to this light board. Now this one is painted in limestone. Okay, so this one is called Amber Honey. This is another one from Paint Couture. So I'm going to apply that again with a brush. Now I've found that these Paint Couture glazes are a little stronger. I think mainly because they have a little bit of a built-in top coat. So I'm not going to wait long to wipe this back. I'm going to do this one right away. And again, since we're using glaze, we're going to use a t-shirt. Be a little kinder to the environment. Back. Okay, so this was the Amber Honey over the limestone, and I just want you to see the difference between the original. Now it's still wet, it's going to take time to dry, like I said, but it's a really dramatic effect. So this was the other
show those details
glaze that we used. This is champagne, and we were using it over Seaside. And if you ever, another thing that's nice that you can use glaze for is, so let's say you paint something and the color is just a lot brighter than you thought, like it's just like, too much. You can take the glaze and it'll
tone it down.
Exactly. Ooh, I'm gonna like this too. I can tell already. So this is Seaside with champagne over it.
Yeah, so this will dry with a little bit of a kind of a glittery, metallic-y haze to it.
It's
Yeah.
got a little bit of a
Yep,
shine.
yep.
We say this a lot. If you're painting furniture to sell, do something a little bit extra. Be a little extra in your work, and it'll pay off. So this one was painted in metallic gold.
So this is Paint Couture's Black Chiffon.
Their glazes are a little thicker than the Fusion. And like I said, I think they have a little bit more, they're more highly pigmented for sure. Okay. So this is, again,
Rich gold, sorry.
With black chiffon glaze from Paint, both are from Paint Couture. I love this look. I don't know about you guys. I love it. I think it is so rich and beautiful, and it tones down the gold a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna take another cup, mix in some of my clear. And like I said, if you were gonna get, if you said to me, you know, I want to buy one of Fusion's glazes, should I get the antiquing or the clear? I would get the clear. Just my suggestion. So this is Fusion's rose gold, and I'm going to just pour a teeny bit in to the clear glaze. I don't need much. Come on. I need more than that. For goodness sakes, there we go. So I would use about 1/3 of the amount of glaze. That's how much paint I put in. And I'm going to mix this up real good. So now I'm going to just take my brush. Ooh, look at that. Pretty.
Mm.
I'm going to leave this for a minute. So the last thing I'm going to do tonight is grab another t-shirt and wipe back this rose gold glaze. So I'm not going to wipe back anymore. So that's the rose gold mixed in with the clear glaze. If you have anybody that you think would be interested in seeing this, please share it with them, or sprinkle, as our friend Dustin says. And by the way, if you come up with any other ideas that you would like us to do tutorials on, just send me an email or a text or whatever. So thank you guys so much. Have a great evening, and we'll see you later.
Good night.
Good night.